Some long-awaited funding for Canadians living with disabilities was announced in Budget 2024.
Canada Disability Benefit is our major milestone to support those lowest income individuals with disabilities. This is going to help 600,000 individuals with disabilities. We know there's more to do, but
the Liberals laid out their plan to spend $6.1 billion over the next 6 years for the National Disability Benefit. It works out to a maximum of $200 per person per month, but it won't kick in until July 2025, and some say this doesn't go far enough.
It's a start, so I know that disability advocates are disappointed. I would have liked to have seen more, but it's more than we had before.
Yeah, it's a start, but it's pretty small start. Too little to too few.
Neil Heatherington is the CEO of the Daily Bread Foodbank, and he's long been calling for this funding. Neil, the last time we spoke on the show, it was about this very issue. And if I remember correctly, you said you needed to see a program of $10 to $12 billion a year. You're getting one that's worth about $1 billion a year. You're disappointed.
We're disappointed, and we're going to continue to work with the government to make sure that they honor what the legislation says and what Minister Chiara said. She made it very clear that this was a benefit that was to lift people out of poverty, and when they are lifted out of poverty, then they don't need the Daily Bread Food Bank. They don't need food banks across the country. They don't need to turn to charity, and what has been presented is, as your last speaker, your last clip noted, Michelle, it is too little, it's too late, and it's too cumbersome to be able to apply for the benefit. It is not equal access to this benefit.
Well, Michelle there, the National Director of Disability Without Poverty, she said she's heartbroken for the people that were waiting with hope that they would get something in this budget that would meaningfully change their lives. I mean, what are you hearing from the people you've been speaking with about what this benefit might mean?
That's exactly what I'm hearing from disability advocates, from those living with disabilities, from those who are relying on this as a lifeline to be able to pay for their own accommodation, to be able to thrive in community. Individuals here at the food bank in Toronto today talking about the disappointment of yesterday, because there had been such high expectation. There had been an expectation that we would grow into a program that would do as the legislation said, provide for somebody to get out of poverty.
We heard there also from the Liberal, one of the Liberal parliamentary secretaries, Pam Damoff, who said the government is aware that advocates are disappointed and says she would have liked to have seen more money, but she says it's more than we had before. $200 per month per person, and hard to apply for is your other criticism. So what are the specific hurdles there in terms of difficulty in even becoming eligible for this, Neil?
Yeah, so right now it goes through the disability tax credit. Well, the vast majority of individuals on disability don't apply for the disability tax credit because they don't have an income that would allow for a tax credit. So what the government has done is they've said there is $41 million this year to get individuals across the country to apply for and go through the same process that they've already been through on their provincial disability plans, to have a doctor use their time to do an assessment and apply for and acknowledge the disability that they already know is present. So they've got to go through that hurdle. $41 million in the minister's calculation, about 300,000 visits to doctors that are completely unnecessary that now need to take place to go through this tax credit to be able to get the $200 or the $6.66 per day.
What's the logic there, Neil? I mean, if you qualify for benefits at the provincial level, surely they can harmonize standards, or at least go with a baseline or the lowest eligibility requirement of all the provincial programs or something to find a way to auto-enroll people in this rather than forcing a whole separate red tape process here.
That's exactly what they're doing. It's a separate red tape process. You would think that they would be able to do that. And maybe during the regulation development, we can encourage them to reverse course on that front. So that's my hope there. The CRA already knows whether or not you are on disability or not. They already know whether or not you're getting a payment from ODSP. So it just seems to me that you'd use the information that you already have in order to create a benefit that is streamlined and so that you can have some savings and pass those savings on to the individuals who were expecting $1,000 a month and got $200.
Right. So I'll talk a bit about the math on that. You mentioned $1,000 a month. It's $200 a month. The goal, I think, was to take $1,000 from the federal government, stack it on what is an average of roughly $1,200 to $1,400 from provincial sources, and get it up to a $2,400 living wage. So that isn't there. And there's 1.6 million Canadians with disabilities living below the poverty line in Canada, but this document says only about 600,000 will be eligible for the new national benefit. Can you help me understand that discrepancy in the eligibility?
Yeah, I don't think that it's a surprise why there will be hurdles in place to make it very difficult for people to apply, and that reduces the expenditures that would be owed to individuals on disability. So what we were looking for was the poverty line is about, as you said, $2,300 across the country. We want people to get to that level, even though those on disabilities have expenses that are much higher than the $2,300 alone. But that at least should allow them to be able to purchase the food that they need and get the shelter that they deserve.
So the $10 billion price tag, roughly, to do that. You saw the budget yesterday and how they're trying to limit to these fiscal targets they set for themselves. It would have blown it for them, or they would have had to sacrifice other things that were in the program. And they also push back to some degree when you talk to people here, Neil, that this is something provincial governments need to do more on. And they have concerns that if the feds come in a big way, provinces could pull back. There's no guarantee necessarily that they'll keep their benefit levels at the same level. So how do we reconcile this, the intergovernmental tension, to help the people you're advocating for?
Well, I think that should have been a conversation around the Liberal caucus prior to promising individuals across the country who are on disability that they would be doing this. So they made that promise, and we're going to hold them to account to make sure that they follow through on that. But here's the thing. Yeah, it's $10 billion, but the cost of poverty exceeds that dramatically. In Ontario alone, poverty, according to a 2019 study, costs about $30 billion per year. So you're talking about a third. And you have the opportunity to go upstream in poverty where it's less expensive, to do the thing that we as Canadians value, to be able to provide a policy that really allows for individuals to have their rights fulfilled and as I said earlier, thrive in community.
Neil Heatherington, CEO of the Daily Bread Foodbank. Always appreciate the time. Thanks for joining me today.
Thanks very much.